Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott Mackenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for joining the Industrial Talk, the number one industrial-related podcast in the universe that celebrates industry professionals all around the world. As you can tell, I'm reading the thing at the same time as I'm doing an intro because it's very intriguing to me. Anyway, you're celebrated on this particular podcast. We are broadcasting on site here at PowerGen in New Orleans, Louisiana, and it is a collection of problem solvers. It is a great event. Put this on your calendar for next year. If you have not done so, do it. Make that, you know what you get? You get an opportunity to speak with Jeffrey because he's in the hot seat, and we're going to be talking about, well, reliability. But it's just so cool. I'm all giddy. I love this stuff. Let's get cracking. Good conference?
I'm having a good conference, yeah. We gave a presentation on this subject earlier this week, and we've had a lot of people come by the booth, and we're having a great conference.
Yeah, so I'm very distracted because I'm reading all of the good stuff that's happening in this trifold handout. But before I get into it, people need to know who you are. Give us a little 411 on who you are.
Okay. Jeffrey Hilker, and I'm with Constellation Power Labs, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Constellation Energy. My background, I'm a nuclear Navy person, submarines. Got out of the Navy, went to Westinghouse, and then ended up at Exelon, which is now Constellation.
Yes.
So I've run a lab for them, I've done some marketing for them, and now I'm the manager of strategic initiatives and parts quality. And this reliability that we're talking about is one of my focuses.
Okay, we might as well just get right into it. PQI, is that how I said it?
Yeah.
Parts Quality Initiative.
Correct.
Which is interesting because Constellation experienced frequent events caused by part quality issues.
Yeah. So let me give you a little story.
Please.
So in 2006, Exelon at the time had a problem. They were having too many down powers, too many scrams or shutdowns caused by inferior parts that would fail in the plant, and they'd have to take the plant down. So when the plant's down, obviously you're losing lots of money.
You don't want that.
Millions of dollars.
No.
Yeah, so unplanned outages are bad. And so they had a lot of these, and they brought the supply chain group together, the managers and the directors, and said, you got to solve this. And so they put them in a room and said, don't come out until you figure this out. So they came up with the parts quality program that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's a two-part program. So first, you identify the parts that are critical.
Right, a criticality rating.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, it's a criticality rating.
If it's a fan for somebody's desk, we don't care.
Right, or the air conditioner for the president of the company.
That one might be critical.
Yeah, I was going to say, see, that's where it becomes a little sketchy.
Yeah, but there's a whole criteria that we went through to identify the parts that are most critical, things that fail a lot, things that are obsolescent, things that fail and will take the plant down.
Yeah.
So these are all went into the group of parts that we wanted to test. And then the second part is testing them. So we also do failure analysis at Power Labs. So the failure analysis goes into that. It's a feedback loop for this parts quality. So we know this particular part, this circuit breaker, fails because of it has a bad spring. So we put that into the feedback loop, so the testing for that circuit breaker will include the testing for that spring, or whatever the part is, whatever the critical piece of that.
Right.
So we make sure it works the way the manufacturer says it's going to work, and we also feed back into it all the things we've learned over the years since 2006, why parts fail. So that goes into that testing plan for that part. So the part comes in, we buy it new, it comes into Power Labs, we test it. If it fails on any of those parameters, we send it back to the manufacturer and say this one's no good. And our parts, we average about 7% failure. Still now, to this day.
7%?
7% of the parts we test fail.
No way.
These are brand new parts. And if we put them in the plant and they end up installed in the plant, they're going to cause a problem. Yep. And we're going to lose power.
Yep.
So our capacity factor is the measurement of how well we're doing, right? So our nuclear fleet has a 95% capacity factor. So
right.
we don't go down
No.
Because, we for 95% of the time. So we estimated that, and we don't do this just for Constellation. We do this for every nuclear plant in the country. Almost every one of them is signed into this program, with a few exceptions, and it sends us our parts, and they have access to our database that has the part number.
Go ahead, continue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the database that we supply, if you're a subscriber, provides you with the part, the manufacturer, the stock code number, and this is the failure rate. If it doesn't fail, don't send it to us. If it fails a lot, you got to send it in, and we'll figure out why, if you have a good one for your warehouse or if you don't. So 2023, we estimate we saved the industry $100 million
No way.
in cost avoidance.
Yeah.
If this part got installed.
Well, yeah,
the plant would go
absolutely.
down. Yeah. So we know it's very successful. Now, we have only done this for the nuclear industry. We think.
Oh, come on.
That's it.
You know that there's tremendous applications everywhere else.
We believe so. We believe so. So we're here at PowerGen talking about this and how we can help any plant with this particular, and utilities in particular. We do a lot of high voltage work and high power testing. Transformers fail a lot. Distribution transformers fail a lot. Arrestors, insulators. We can test all those, and we can tell you if you got good ones or if you got bad ones.
It just surprises me.
Yeah.
Because being an old utility guy, I just assumed that the quality of the equipment coming in, I was in transmission, was there. I mean, like the manufacturer has their testing.
They do. But we're independent, and we don't make anything. Constellation doesn't produce any parts or make anything. We don't have a dog in the hunt. So we're just calling balls and strikes. If XYZ manufacturer sends us a transformer, we're just testing it. We just want to know whether it's going to do what you say it's going to do as a manufacturer. Now, if you're getting that test report from the manufacturer, he's not going to, they're going to say it's good. Or if you send
of course
it back,
they're going to say it's good.
So that's why independence is really valuable here. And we know that lots of transformers fail. Lots of them before they're even put in. You have. So what utilities end up doing is just having a huge stockpile. So that
the inventory is massive.
Exactly. So we can reduce inventory. We can create better reliability. So your metrics like SAIDI, CAIDI, and SAFE, where you're getting fined when you have outages, will go down. Because we know that we'll be delivering parts or putting parts that will last into your system.
So the process, how do you? Well, it's pretty straightforward in the world of nuclear. You're just not going to have a failure. You just don't want to have a failure. It's just one of those things where it's like a plane. You don't want to have a plane failure. You're going to make sure that the maintenance and the reliability of that asset is solid, right? But if I'm here's the use case. If I'm a purchasing manager at utility, and I'm typing it in, I want some transformers, whatever, for whatever reason. I go to the manufacturer, I offer that order. There's got to be this interim step where it comes on in, where then it gets tested by a third party. Is that how it works?
That's how it works for PQI, exactly how it works. What we can do is eliminate some of that downtime, though. So transformers have very long lead times.
They do.
They do.
And it's getting worse.
So if you're buying a transformer and you want to be part of this program, what you can do is have them ship it directly to us. It's done. They're ready to deliver. It comes to Power Labs. We do all the testing for you, and when you get it, it's ready to go. You put it in your yard. You put it in your pole. Whatever you want to do with it. But it's ready. You know it's going to work when you go ahead and install it. And we do the same thing for our plants. So a lot of the new parts that our plants buy come directly to us. We go through the process, and they send it out to them, and they put it in their warehouse.
What about like motors and valves and other pieces of equipment other than power-related equipment?
We do just about anything from fuses up to circuit breakers and transformers, like we talked about. We do some mechanical testing of some products, various things in a plant that.
Right. But then again, it gets down to that asset criticality of the, do this, don't worry about this. We can, there's availability of those assets relatively easy.
Yes.
And it's not shutting the plant down. We are able to sort of do a workaround, whatever it might be. But all of that criteria goes in. Do you work with other companies to come up with that asset criticality rating?
We do, and what we also offer is when you sign up for this program, we send a consultant to you, and we will look at your supply and say these are the parts that you should send to us. These ones you don't need to, and these are the ones that are most critical. Like if you don't get these tested, you're gonna have problems. We can give you that kind of analysis of your supply chain and your stock, and go through it. And
what about the ongoing maintenance of the assets? Let's say I'm pulling data off of those assets.
That's a good question.
Because now I've got a baseline. This is a piece of equipment that is, quote, certified or whatever. It's ready to go, but I have to maintain it. I can't just let it. There's an action there.
Mm-hmm. So. The preventative maintenance that plants do we're not involved in that. We can make recommendations, but we don't do the maintenance ourselves.
Right.
So we just tell you, this transformer, you should test the oil X number of times.
Exactly.
When that, whatever the frequency is, that we'll tell you.
Right.
We also do calibration, and we will recommend calibration cycles for you. But it's up to the customer to do those PMs in whatever frequency they're supposed to be done at. We certainly recommend. We'll do it. We'll consult with you. We'll tell you what we think, but it's up to the company that owns that asset.
Because you don't want to have the situation where you've certified. I don't know what do you certify, or what?
We call it testing.
Testing.
Yeah.
You've tested this piece of equipment. It meets the standards that are needed, and if they don't do their end, do they ever sort of loop back and say, "Hey, you said you tested this thing, and blah blah blah."
Yeah.
But there's got to be.
That happens very rarely.
Yeah.
But there is a movement now for us to start talking about age. We tested it 10 years ago. Is that?
You're going to have that conversation.
Yeah, that's the conversation we're having now. We tested this 10 years ago. It's been in your warehouse. You should test it. You should send it back in. You should send it back in and we'll test it again. Because if you go to use it and it doesn't work, then you have issues, right? So, so that conversation is happening now. This program is very mature for the nuke world. It's not, utilities don't use this kind of metrics.
It just blows me away.
Yeah. So we think this lends itself to especially utility companies that are regulated and have to meet a certain metric.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah. So we think this would be perfect for
it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, getting the word out is hard. So I'm glad you asked me to come on here.
Yeah, but of course I'm going to geek out about the doggone thing. And of course I'm like, it just seems like it's a no-brainer.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
But no, this is fascinating, and it's a surprise to me. Honestly, it is, because again, being an old utility guy, I just assumed that when we put a transformer out in the field,
it's typically not tested by anybody but the OEM, but the original equipment manufacturer tests it. That's typically the only test you got, and you
What was the failure rate before you started testing it?
So when we first started testing, the failure rate was in the 15% range.
Yeah.
Now that we've gotten most of the warehouse stuff out, now the failure rate's about 7%. And we do go back to manufacturers. We'll say, hey, this relay fails 20% of the time. What can you do about it? And a lot of times they're standoffish. Well, you're not testing it right. You're not doing. So we collaborate.
Of course they're going to do that.
Yeah. We go to their site, and most of the time we come to an agreement. Okay, this is how we test, and maybe you should be testing it too because this is what we're finding. Most of the time that's happened. Sometimes you get manufacturers that say, we're not going to take your recommendations. We don't want to have anything to do with you. You're not doing it right. Sometimes that happens. But for the most part, we get collaboration. And we change the way they test. And it makes them, they have a better product, when they're done.
It just seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. And like I said, we're calling balls and strikes. We're not trying to sell anything.
No. You're trying to keep that asset up and running. You're trying to put in equipment that has that reliability in without it. nothing's worse than putting something in and then it fails. You know.
A week later.
Oh, no. You don't want it. And plus, there's a safety component to it, you know, and once you open
and
it.
an environmental component.
There's just so much to it that you just don't want to deal with. How do people get a hold of you, my friend?
So, Constellation Power Labs, you can find me on the website. I'm easy to find.
You busy on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn.
Okay, we're going to have their stat card out there on Industrial Talk. You were absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
All right, listeners, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. We're going to have all the contact information for Jeffrey out on Industrial Talk. Reach out to him. Incredible stuff, incredible solutions that they are deploying there at Constellation. Love what they're doing. Constellation Power Labs. Correction. All right, we're going to wrap it up on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right. PowerGen was the event. That was in New Orleans, Louisiana. Jeffrey Hilker, Constellation Power Labs, all of his contact information will be out on Industrial Talk. Yes, I want reliable power. Yes, I do. You want it too as well. So that's what they're doing out there. I thought it was just an absolutely fantastic. What a great service. I love it. What a great service that they provide there at Constellation Power Labs. All right, I say it all the time. You educate, you collaborate, you innovate. Go out to Industrial Talk and soak up this great information, this great content being delivered by people like Jeffrey, and just continue to educate. But the best part about it is that they're available to collaborate. You want to solve problems? You want to collaborate? Yes. Innovation is just a natural outgrowth. All right, be bold, be brave, dare greatly. I say it all the time. Hang out with Jeffrey. You will be changing the world. Put PowerGen on your calendar for next year. We're going to have another great conversation shortly, so stay tuned.